Hello my beautiful book besties, welcome back to my channel. My name is Liv if you're new here, and today I am bringing you our very first book haul of 2025. As you may or may not know, I have been budgeting myself pretty hardcore going into this year, with the exception of January because that was my birthday month, but I have been cutting way down on my book buying, mainly because I want to use my library and I want to use my Kindle more, but also I recently unhauled hundreds of books. Every single book has its very own place on my bookshelves now, and I really do not want to disturb that. I don't want to accumulate a bunch of books that I'm not going to read like that month. I actually didn't count how many books I have here, but if I were to guess, it's probably about like 30-ish. But two things: yes, it was my birthday, so I did get a couple books for myself, I did get a couple books from friends, but unfortunately my local Barnes & Noble actually was shutting down completely, so everything was 75% off. So I got quite a few books during that time over Christmas break that I still have yet to share with you, but I'm going to cut the rambling or we will be here all day and we're going to dive straight into the books. We're going to start with my favorite. Obviously most of these books are fantasy, and I have accumulated quite a few special editions that I personally love, and I'm so excited to add to my shelf. Starting us off with a book that made my favorites list of last year, that is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. This is the Fairy Loot edition. So when they announced that they were going to be having like an exclusive pre-order for the second book, I really wanted to buy that one, and I've been scouring the internet for this edition and just waiting for the price to drop, and when the price was right, I pulled the trigger and I'm so happy that I did. This is just absolutely stunning, you guys. I love the tones and the vibes of this. It's so pretty. I could not be happier that I have this edition on my shelf. If you guys have not read an Isabel Ibanez book yet, you need to get on it. Historical romance is like my favorite thing right now. I was so happy that I found this on Pango and that someone was selling this in perfect condition basically. Next, I cannot believe I actually found this because this book kind of blew up in this edition. I am currently reading and loving it, so I am so grateful that I trusted my gut and just bought an edition of this. That is A Feather So Black by Lyra Celine. This is absolutely stunning. The black with the neon like blue and purple, it is absolute perfection. I also feel like this fits the vibe of the story so well. It's just so beautiful. And honestly, I love this reversible dust jacket with a sword on it, which is I think technically the UK cover just as much. Next we have my most recent special edition, which is the adult Owl Crate, I believe, Water Moon. I was hearing a lot of great early hype about this one, so I decided to get it instead of skip on it, and this is so pretty as well. It's kind of like the same vibes as Feather So Black, where we have the dark with like the light green. I also love that we kind of have this anime illustrated type of style. Not to mention the hands on this dust jacket are so freaking creepy. It's just intriguing me even more. I literally want to pick this up right now. A woman inherits a pawn shop where you can sell your regrets and then embarks on a magical journey when a charming young physicist wanders into the shop in this dreamlike and enchanting fantasy novel. A goal of mine this year is to keep up on reading my special editions, and I feel like this one is definitely at the top of the list. Next we have another Owl Crate adult called The Teller of Small Fortunes. This illustration style is so whimsical. Look how beautiful these sprayed edges are. Like, I am so excited to read this book. Like, are you kidding me? This is absolutely beautiful. Whoever illustrated these end pages, this is just perfect classic fairy tale storybook. A wandering fortune teller finds an unexpected family in this warm and wonderful debut fantasy, perfect for readers of Travis Baldree and Sangu Mandana. I mean, say no less. I love Travis Baldree. We're getting a lot of romantasy, but honestly sometimes I just want like a fun, heartfelt adventure or story or some type of amazing fantasy to blow me away, and I feel like this definitely has the potential to be that. Okay, next I do have to explain myself a little bit here as to why I ended up with both editions of The Courting of Bristol Keats. I have the Owl Crate edition and I also have the Fairy Loot edition. When you sign up for Fairy Loot, you actually cannot skip your first month, and when I got accepted into the subscription, of course it ended up being this one when I already had this on pre-order. So I ended up with both of these, but honestly I am not mad about this whatsoever because obviously these are both completely different vibes. This Fairy Loot edition is just blowing me away with the mushrooms. I think that's why I really wanted this one. This edition is definitely more of a romantic take. There's a lot of purple and there's foiling on the end papers. I just love this. This artwork is so good and I feel like this one's gonna be perfect for springtime, so I'm holding on to it until then. The owl crate is definitely a completely different feel, but I love the greens and the florals we have. I also adore this. Are you kidding me? The shading and the shadowing is just so incredible on this. Like, I want to know about these characters immediately. I have heard some interesting things about the reviews, but honestly, if the book is this pretty, I'm just glad to have it on my shelves. Speaking of Mary E. Pearson, I have not actually read any books from her. I do own The Dance of Thieves, and then I did end up purchasing these original paperback covers during that Barnes & Noble sale because, like I said, they were probably $6 or $7 each, and I feel like you cannot compete with that, especially when they are in perfect condition. I literally know nothing about this series other than it's like one of the OG original like romantasy series, but I've heard that you really should read these before reading According to Bristol Keats because somehow it's set in the same world or maybe some of the same characters show up, but I'm not completely certain. I will say I kind of regret picking these up because the new covers they put out have sprayed edges, of course. Either way, I'm glad to have these and I'm really excited to dive in. Before we get further into the fantasy, I do have to show you my favorite, most prized possession now over any other book that I own. That is the brand new deluxe Hunger Games paperback editions. You guys know my absolute obsession and love for Hunger Games even to this day. It was a big part of my reading life growing up. There's just nothing that hits like the Hunger Games. I reread these last year and I was so excited to see that these were coming out. But in case you have not seen these yet, look at the sprayed edges. This is so pretty. There is foiling on all of them on the front and the back. I will probably not actually ever read from these editions. I want to keep them in pristine condition because I love them so much. Not only did I buy the deluxe box edition, but for a Christmas present, my sister bought me the Hunger Games illustrated edition. I will say I don't love the black and white illustrations, but I think the way the illustrator did it and the specific scenes that he pulled out of the book are absolutely perfect. The naked cover is also amazing with the bird and the gold foiling, and I love the red. I think the next one is supposed to be like green and purple. But hello, my name is Liv and I will buy every single edition of the Hunger Games that I can. Next I have, I guess it's the deluxe edition of Shatter Me. Also, this naked hardcover is my favorite blue of all time. It says, "I spent my life folded between the pages of books." I am one of the very few people that has even dove into this series. I know it's a little bit more dystopian kind of romance, but I am really excited to read it at some point and see what it's like. Again, it's just one of those original romantasy books that I still have on my radar and would love to try. I honestly just want to know why this one is so popular. And then I decided to snag Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco because I feel like the sprayed edition has been going very fast. Last year I absolutely fell in love with Stalking Jack the Ripper and I cannot wait to continue that series. As soon as I finished that series, I knew that she's going to be an all-time favorite author of mine. Next I have Written in Starlight by Isabel Ibanez. Like I said, she is now one of my all-time favorite authors. I actually own the hardback copy of Woven in Moonlight, which is the first book in this duology. For whatever reason, this book is out of print and I've been trying to track down a hard copy or hardback copy to match my Woven in Moonlight. Yes, I did end up paying a little bit more for this so that they match, but I don't even care. I honestly don't even remember or know what this series is about, but I don't even care because I'm going to be on a journey to read all of her backlist. Speaking of Isabel Ibanez, her book Together We Burn actually got a recover design last year. All I know is that this one is about a family legacy of dragon fighting. I was like, yep, I'm completely sold, say no more. In my opinion, Isabel is such an underrated author, so hopefully if you guys have not read any of her books before, maybe this will encourage you to do so. Okay, this next book I purchased because I was heavily influenced by a lot of the romantasy or booktok girlies. That is Light Lark by Alex Astor, but I read the back and honestly it completely sold me. I love a good deadly game. You guys know I love Hunger Games. I love any type of competition. I don't know what kind of ride I'm in for in this book, but I've heard really great things and I think her third one, and the final one in the series just came out. Don't quote me on that, but again, another backlist book that I'm still really intrigued by. Then we have Wild as the Witch by Rachel Griffin. I read Bring Me Your Midnight, which almost made my top 10 of last year, or maybe it actually did, but I'm on a journey to read her backlist. Rachel Griffin so far has written all like witchy books, and I feel like this one is going to be perfect for September or October. Her books are just so lush and captivating and so easy to fly through, and I'm really curious about this one because I love a good witchy story. The next read I have is one that I have debated picking up for so long, but there's a specific bookstagrammer. She has talked about this author in this book nonstop for years, and I really want to read Into the Heartless Wood by Joanna Ruth Meyer. This sounds so creepy and so spooky. It says the forest is a dangerous place where siren song lures men and women to their deaths. Sirens, foresty vibes. Does this book not absolutely sound perfectly creepy? Next we have a book that I believe is only indie published at this point. I think it's new adult, but don't quote me on that. It is called By the Orchid and the Owl. It's academia, you guys. This is definitely a book that I've heard gives off Harry Potter vibes. It could just be because of the magic school, but either way, I'm completely sold. I love that they have 5 different gifts or abilities, and I cannot wait to see how our main character uses them. Every time I just look at this book or glance at this book, I'm like, yeah, I feel like this could be a hidden gem that's very underrated. So I'm hoping to read this fairly soon and report back. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this next book, The Crescent Tea Room, is 100% a cover buy. I have not really seen anyone I personally know read it, but it is adult fantasy. I've heard it is a little bit more like a cozy fantasy rather than a high stakes fantasy, which personally I have been looking for more of those this year. And I do know there are witchy triplets, so that right there just sounds super fun. Obviously the sister dynamic is also what sold me, as well as the cover, so I'm hoping to read this one very soon. It's also blurbed by Sarah Penner, who said an impossibly endearing tale that will enchant and delight. I really do like Sarah Penner as well, so hopefully that means good things. Next we have a couple adult fantasies, starting us off with Anastasia by Sophie Lark. I actually know nothing about this author other than she writes dark romance, which is not really my vibe, but I've heard that this fantasy book, even though it is so big, it is so incredible. I love the original story of Anastasia. Also, this has artwork in it, you guys, and that just makes me even more excited to get to this. It seems like it would be the perfect wintry fantasy to dive into. I don't know if I'll get to this soon, but I'm definitely gonna save it more towards the end of the year when winter and the holidays comes back around. I've just heard this is cutthroat, it's dark, it's also romance. I know my friend Desi also said this is like one of her favorite books of all time now, which makes me even more excited because I definitely trust her with all my recommendations. Next we have book 2, A Crown So Silver by Lyra Celine. Why yes, I am still reading A Feather So Black, but I've heard from my friends that the first one ends off on a crazy cliffhanger, so I was like, well, I may as well buy it and have it on hand. The main character is a changeling, so there's a lot of like fairy tale vibes and things already that I'm super loving, so I'm super glad that I went ahead and bought this one. And yes, like basically the entire rest of the world, I did buy Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I did read it, I felt okay about it, but I knew that if I was going to buy it, I needed to get a hold of the sprayed edges before they sold out, because you guys know how crazy people go for these books. So I had to get my little hands on this one before it ended up going out of print. The next book is actually for my in-person book club, and it is a chunker, and I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, although when you go on Goodreads there are a ton of reviews and most of them are good. Like I think this book has like a 4.5, so clearly I need to find out what the heck this book is about. It is called The Will of the Many. I believe this is actually going to be a trilogy. It's an adult fantasy. At the elite Catanon Academy, a young fugitive uncovers layered mysteries and world-changing secrets in this new fantasy series. But when there's such crazy reviews about a fantasy book, I have to figure out why. I'm just hoping and praying that this is not another case of like Babel by R.F. Kuang where it's completely over my head. So hopefully I'll have the dedication and the motivation to get through this before our book club. Next, I have Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I do want to read this, and I am trying to collect all the Puffin and Bloom Classics editions because these are just so beautiful. Like, look at the end papers, and they're so cute and small. Like, how could you not want to own all of these books? They are so pretty. And yes, I did buy one of the biggest books that has already blown up this year. That is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I did read it, and spoiler alert, I did end up loving this. This book was full of toxic, chaotic behavior, but it's ice skating, and I love ice skating. If you love Daisy Jones and the Six and you love drama and suspense, this is going to be perfect for you. This is definitely going to go on my favorites list of the year already. And then I do have a very special edition of Emily Henry's Beach Read. I love this. It's so pretty. Like, is that not the most perfect summer yellow? Beach Read was my very first introduction to romance at all, like the entire genre, and this book specifically. So it has a very special place in my heart. I knew I had to own this edition, and I saw that they're putting out special editions of all of them. And then I have B.K. Borison's First Time Caller, which I'm so excited to read very soon. I don't have the best reading experience with this author, but I really feel like this cover and the story alone is going to make me happy I gave her a second chance. This one is supposed to be like Sleepless in Seattle, which I also love. Obviously, a lot of people were also excited about this one. I've been seeing it non-stop on my Instagram feed for the past week, but hopefully that means good things because I really want to love this author. Okay, we're done with our fantasy, we're done with our romance, but now we're gonna get into some thrillers, starting with Neil Shusterman's new book, All Better Now. I actually can't remember when or what the date is that this book is actually going to be released, but the publisher so kindly sent me a copy, and I'm super excited about this because I love Scythe. That is one of the series that got me full on back into reading back in the day, I think in like 2018. It says, survive a deadly virus and find total happiness. Is it worth the risk? Is it worth the cure? This book is definitely giving me The Giver vibes because I think it has to do with people not being able to show emotion or something bad happens to them, but I'm definitely going to give this one a shot because I've really missed Neil Shusterman's writing. Next, we have a cute little cozy mystery romance that I also got from the publisher, so thank you. She Doesn't Have a Clue by Jenny Elder Moak. I've actually never heard of this author before, but this is the cutest cover ever. A colorful cast of characters in a cellar full of wine. Anything can happen from murder to a second chance at love. This one's definitely giving me Most Wonderful Crime of the Year or Juniper Bean vibes. I feel like this one could be really cute and really cozy. Essentially, this is about our main character that goes off to an island. She is attending a wedding there, and the bride ends up poisoned, and she also finds another dead body. And I'm definitely along for that ride, especially if there's a little sprinkle of romance in there. Switching gears a little bit here, I forgot earlier to mention the one and only horror book that I picked up recently, and that is Grady Hendrix's Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I actually am very scared to read this. I went to his book signing, and he is one of the most funny, down-to-earth people. So iconic. He gave this whole presentation on the history of witches. It was so intriguing and so interesting. But the main reason why I'm scared about this one is because it's about a bunch of pregnant girls, and I can only imagine the horrors that happen with them. I do miss Grady Hendrix writing, but I'm a little bit scared, which is why I haven't started this one yet. But I've heard it reads more of like a contemporary chick lit kind of book with a little bit of spooky vibes. Honestly though, I love this cover. I am excited that we just have another Grady book, and his book talk was really interesting, so it does make me want to pick this up soon. Next, I have a young adult mystery thriller called Their Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington. My friend Rachel has actually read this book and recommended it to me multiple times, and sometimes I'm really in the mood to just binge an easy YA thriller. I just know that there's a game in this one that's also set at a prestigious academy, I believe, which is totally my vibe. I don't know what's gonna be in this book, but honestly, I'm along for the ride. Next, we have The Crash by Frida McFadden, which is her newest and latest winter thriller. I really do want to read this one, but it also sounds like No Exit by Taylor Adams, which stressed me the heck out. Not only was that at a rest stop, but in this book, our main character is pregnant, which just sounds even more stressful and also super scary. She gets stranded somewhere in a blizzard. I don't know if she's by herself, but I'm a little bit scared. And then we have The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins, which I honestly have not rated any of her books super high, but honestly they're super bingeable and super enjoyable. I've heard that this one is like Taylor Jenkins Reid Evelyn Hugo, which is very interesting to me. I definitely think if there's a time where I'm ever in the mood for a little bit more of a domestic or dramatic thriller, I will be picking this one up. Then we have Someone in the Attic by Andrea Mara. I have seen this one around quite a bit, but my friend Rachel gave it to me. She said that she felt like I would really like it, but it is actually like a home invasion or intrusion story. It's about this woman who's taking a bath one day and she sees the hatch of her attic open. That right there just gave me the absolute chills thinking about it. This one definitely sounds scary, but sometimes I like to be a little bit spooked. Then we have Famous Last Words by Gillian or Gillian McAllister. This is her newest book, which I'm very excited to read. I haven't actually read anything from this author yet, but I am very intrigued by this one. From the author of Wrong Place, Wrong Time comes an addictive thriller about a new mother whose world is upended when her husband commits a terrifying crime. Again, this one does sound a little bit more domestic as well, but sometimes I'm in the mood to binge a good drama suspenseful thriller. Next, I decided to add on to my book of the month this past month is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. I have read very little historical mysteries. I've read a couple historical fiction or historical fantasy, but this I feel like is going to open up a whole new world of like mystery subgenres for me. I did end up getting it as an add-on though because my library holds are crazy long for this one, and hopefully that's for good reason. Speaking of historical mysteries, I also got The Frozen River. It is about a gripping historical mystery inspired by the life and diary of Martha Ballard, a renowned 18th century midwife who defied the legal system and wrote herself into American history. This takes place in 1789. I've not heard a single bad review about this one. If I don't pick it up now, I will probably wait until the end of the year, but I just look at this book and I know it's going to be a favorite of the year. And then I am going to end us off with a couple manga and graphic novels. It's been a while since I bought a graphic novel or a manga. I feel like I didn't really gravitate towards those last year, so I haven't really wanted to buy anymore until I catch up with what I own. One of my absolute favorite manga series, and I always recommend if you're new to manga or you're skeptical of manga, is to start with Witch Hat Atelier. I recently caught up with volumes 10 and 11 and immediately knew I had to go get these two. I honestly didn't even know they were out, and I believe we're supposed to get a show either this year or 2026. If you don't know anything about this series, yes, it is catered more towards children or young adult. There is some dark themes that come in later, but this is about a girl named Coco who goes to like this magical school or academy with all these other little girls. I'm just gonna leave it at that because there's so much that happens in this series, but oh my goodness, you guys, these books have made me so emotional. They make me happy, not to mention the artwork is incredibly detailed and incredibly beautiful. But this is one series that I don't mind owning or taking up shelf space because they are pieces of actual artwork. If you are looking for something brand new, you like comics and graphic novels, not sure where to start with manga, I always recommend Witch Hat Atelier. Last but not least, I have number 2 in Sourceline as well as number 2 in 5 Worlds called The Cobalt Prince. Both of these are actually children's graphic novels, but they are some of my all-time favorite series. Sourceline is about a girl that's like a caretaker of magical animals, and the artwork, I'm telling you, is absolutely stunning. It reads a little bit more comic, but it's also very detailed. And then if you like sci-fi, 5 Worlds is also set in space, but the artwork, again, so detailed, and the story is actually very in-depth. I probably will have to reread the first one because I don't remember much of the story because there was a lot of depth to it. But for being a graphic novel, this story had lots of layers to it, lots of plot twists. I enjoyed the artwork, and I think there might be like 5 out at this point. If you are looking for another graphic novel series to try or one to get into, I highly recommend these. They are both 5 stars. Well friends, that is it for my first big book haul of the year. Like I said, I have no idea how many books I just talked about, but we definitely have a big range of genres, so I hope you found a new recommendation. Before you leave this video, let me know in the comments what your last book that you hauled was. I'm always interested to see what you guys are buying and what you're adding to your shelves as well. But thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I love you, and I will see you in my next video.